Hey guys, it's Ben the Coin Geek at Old Pueblo Coin, and today I have a video for you that is a conversation with Daniel at CoinHELPu about artificial intelligence and the coin market and coin grading. It's a longer video, so pop some popcorn and get ready to watch and get ready to leave your comments. All right, well, we're here finally. Today's the day to talk about artificial intelligence with Daniel at CoinHELPu. And Daniel, let's jump right into finding out more about what's this platform you guys are working on at mintstate.com.
Well, I mean, as far as background's concerned, I guess I should say on it a little bit. It's not so much a platform. It is artificial intelligence. It's two-layered deep learning, but it's not anything you're going to find anywhere. And that's the thing that people have to understand, that he had to come up with a different way to do the artificial intelligence, because what was out there and what he was trying online, and a lot of people talk about Google source and all that. It's not called Google source, but Google has different APIs and different types of software that you can kind of use to integrate. None of that worked. I think there's an app that uses that you can take a picture of your world coin, and it'll try to identify it and give you sources. I'm trying to think if that's I don't know if it's Aeroscope. I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but they use that, and that just didn't work. It wasn't good enough.
So some of this technology, it sounds like other guys have kind of tried a little bit with this Aeroscope or whatever the program was called. And I saw that some of what you guys are doing, you already have an app in place that if you put a coin image, if you take a picture and line it up with your software, it'll tell you what the coin is, right? And then you have to enter some more data. So, but how many firsts are you guys running into? Do you know of anyone else who's really using this technology?
No, nobody's using the artificial intelligence that he's using. Like I said, a lot of it's proprietary. Mike is very good at it. Now, I can't speak completely on this because I'm not a developer. I'm working with them mostly on the numismatic side and the marketing side and the ideas. I'm the ideas man when it comes to knowing the business well enough to where they ask me, hey, what do you think of this? Because now he's working on being able to track your stacks, like your silver stacking and gold and copper and that kind of thing. So he wants my input, how much the stuff weighs. So I weigh stuff for him and I give him, all that kind of advice. It started out, as far as the artificial intelligence is concerned, I did a video back in September of 2019. He contacted me about doing something, a project, and he sent me some screenshots. And I said, oh, I'm all in, just you start something and I'll do what I can. And of course, at first I was grading these coins. They were already graded. I was like, that looks like the grade. That doesn't look like the grade. That's weak struck. And went through that. And I mean, we spent, I don't know, countless weeks and hours doing that in my spare time. And we had a lot of meetings together. We have a lot of meetings anyways, at least one a week, it seems like anymore. So, and that way we can talk about things, because some things are going on pretty good, other parts of the website. The problem is that the developer fees, the cost of doing the development part of the AI is extremely expensive because it's labor intensive. And so we wanted to come up with he wanted to come up with too, started his idea of maybe doing a coin collecting software and having a coin values. So since I know about coin values, we use things like Numis Media and Heritage Sold Auctions and PCGS and NGC and come up with an average. We started that just so we could start maybe generating some funding for it, because money is always the main catalyst that needs to be behind something to drive it like this.
So how are you guys funding this right now? Am I correct in hearing that it's just the two of you?
No, it's actually Mike and Hutch and me. Now, okay. Mike and Hutch are mostly doing the work as far as that's concerned. Like I said, I'm on basically kind of the consulting role on this, is where I'm at. So, like I said, consulting and numismatic advice, things like that. The actual coin collecting and coin dealer, the whole numismatics, that's what I'm for. That's what I do. Because he really didn't have a background in that. He had a background in developing software and he wanted to be involved in it. Like I said, I don't want to speak too much for Mike because I can tell you what he told me, but he may want to say it differently or that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I'm curious as to how he got into the idea of doing something on the coins with his technology, if he's not a coin guy.
Yeah, he told me this, and I still have the email. I can say this much. He saw my video on artificial intelligence way back. Okay, talking over a year ago. And he's always wanted to do something in the coins. for whatever reason, he was interested in it, and he thought maybe he'd go to some coin shows. Of course, COVID happened, obviously, and that kind of put some, so he thought, he would, since he had a developer background, why couldn't he combine his skills with something that he was interested in getting involved in? So that's basically, in a nutshell, what he told me.
Yeah. So currently, I saw. So you guys have basically a tracker for your inventory, kind of like a personal collector inventory tracker, which looks like a cool piece of technology to have for anyone who's a collector. When it comes to the actual grading, this is what, for people who watch you, or maybe they watch me, their big thing for the coin side of things is like, how is the technology really going to work? So when it comes to the technology, where are you guys at currently on actual grading of coins with AI?
Well, as far as we have the Morgan dollars to where it grades pretty close. The ones that I showed in the video I did, it graded it right on. I mean, what it was. But it's kind of on a scale. It shows you what the most likely grade is, but also could be on either side of that, because we're looking at images. Images are never going to be appropriate for grading a coin. I mean, you can get an idea, but you're never. So that's basically where we're at, using images. Using a lot of images, and I think we talked about that on the phone last night. We started out with 40, but it looks like we're going to need more than that. And not all coins look the same in the holders. I see it too much. I'm sure you see it all the time too. I mean, I'll get in the coin dealers helping coin dealers, and I'll buy a big old lot of graded Morgan dollars, and they don't all look the same. They just don't.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. Anytime you get groups of coins, because that was one of the things I was trying to figure out when it came to the technology was, are we, as a community, how do you make the machine, how do you make the artificial intelligence know what grade is what? Because there can still be some difference of opinion. So even you and I, we can look at 10 coins together, 10 Morgan dollars, MS65, and maybe we'll agree on 7 of them, but then there's going to be outliers. So one of my thoughts was always, well, who's going to really be able to program the AI? And it sounds like right now it's a communal effort. Are we just working towards an average then, if we're going to input a lot of different data?
It's I don't really say average wise. I guess that would be one way to look at it, but I call it a baseline. And you're trying to find, it's going to look at enough coins, let's say, or at least be introduced to enough coins of the same grade to where it can almost develop a little bit of a baseline. Now, like I said, I'm not being technical because I cannot speak for the software itself that he's developed, but I do know that we've talked about the baseline a lot. I'm like, if it's got a baseline of that all 63 is kind of on either side of it, because you have plus 63s, you have minus 63s, then you have some that are right in the middle. So if you can find that curve, that's what he's kind of has. He has the curve there. He says it could be on either side of that. So if the coin grades 63, it might be 62 to some people. It might be 63 to some people. So that's kind of like you said, it is kind of an average. I mean, we're kind of averaging everything in numismatics anyways, even values. You pretty much come up with an average based off a lot of different things.
Yeah, I did look at your pricing. I've gone through some of the pricing thing, and it's pretty interesting because I know you're using averages, like you said. And for those of you who haven't gone to mintstate.com yet, you should go and kind of check it out and load some stuff on your phone. And it's pretty interesting because I have one of the number one questions I get, and I know you get this all the time too, is how do you price a coin and where do you get the coin value from? And there's hundreds of websites you can look at. Most of them are way off, including some of the big boys. Like, we want NGC and we want PCGS to be accurate because they've got all the money and they've got all the data, and yet, man, they're way off. So I was really impressed with some of the things that I saw where the average seems to be a little closer on your website to market, in my opinion. So kudos to you guys for that. And I always thought that it would be easy to pull an average together, but I don't know how often for that specific application, is it the data being updated daily or weekly, or do you know?
It's not, and that's what we're working on next. As far as the values are concerned, I told Mike, I said, look, this is what we need. We need to have all the major sources like Numis Media, PCGS, NGC, and Heritage Sold Auctions, or anything that you can find that we could average out. Well, he come up with NGC, PCGS, Numis Media, and then CPG, which is the Coin Dealer Newsletter retail. Well, what's happening is that PCGS and NGC, believe it or not, we were talking about this last night on the phone when you called, is a certain value. They're less than CPG. They're less than Numis Media. A lot less. Numis Media is actually blowing up the figures a little bit because it's so much higher than the other three. So we're looking at adjusting that, and he can actually average some, and he's wanting to put together, and I put up my video, people who, let's say, there's a lot of guys out there that love Mercury dimes. They're not dealers. They might sell them a little bit, but they collect them. They're kind of aware of the values on a regular basis. So we're going to recruit them. They already have some volunteers. They're going to go in. They're going to check out each one, so it's not overwhelming. They'll be able to go through the charts. And we have a little interface where they can go in and they can change the value. If they go to Heritage and they see the average, if they see one sell for $50, another one sells for $40, then obviously they can put that in there and we'll average it out to $45 as a sold value and a fair market value. That's the plan.
So this is basically, what you'd call crowdsourcing, more or less.
Yes, it's going to have to be that way because there's really no automatic way of averaging values out. I know a lot of people think that PCGS and NGC and the Red Book do that, but it actually relies on dealers reporting things to them.
Yeah.
And also just watching the market, the big shows and things like that. That stuff. That's kind of,
what's interesting, I was just thinking that you've been in that boat and Morgans get traded a lot. I always tell people Lincoln Cents get traded a lot. There's certain coins. Then there's things that you don't see as frequently. And I love talking to guys about who specialize in a specific category that is maybe not as highly collected. They teach me so much every time I have them. So crowdsourcing, I think, is a great idea. In fact, I know at least one of my customers in shop who is, I think, volunteered to price some Ikes for you guys. So I'm pretty excited overall about the concept of getting the pricing as close to market as possible by having people who are really into the minutia. But my only apprehension about that is collectors tend to overvalue their coins.
We talked about that.
And
we're all this stuff. That's one of the things about having me on board with the background that I have. I already know what's going to happen. I tell him, I said, people are going to do this, they're going to do that, and you got to prepare for it. Now, you're not going to be able to be 100% on none of this. You're always going to have something happen.
Yeah.
But that's where I come in at times. If something's kind of out of whack, I can go in and I can double check things, make sure things stay realistic. Obviously, once it grows, which what we plan on growing, we'll have some monitors and things like that where someone can look at it every once in a while and say, maybe this is off. And that's why I guess it's kind of crazy to say this right now and not to be political at all, but this is kind of like by the people. I mean, it's by the collectors, it's by people who offer advice, and it's kind of being molded and shaped towards the collector rather than just putting out something I think is best for you. It's best for everybody because we're all given input. And to me, I think it drives a community kind of idea, and it's kind of novel, in my opinion, for a software to be like that.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that, and you guys have probably already planned for this, but I'm just thinking out loud, being careful to make sure you can make it so that people don't game the system. So one of the things that you talk about, some of the price guides being inflated, and there's always been a little bit of that conspiracy theory or no conspiracy, whichever it may be, but some of the prices are inflated specifically so there's some national dealers that can justify their pricing. And so, and I know you've probably run into that in the past too, where you look at prices, you're like, I don't know who it is who will actually pay that. So this may be too technical or too in the weeds, but do you guys have something set up other than your eyeballs to kind of weed out people that are trying to game the system by inflating prices?
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. The people that are volunteering to help with the values, I mean, they're obviously, we'll watch what they do and see how they do it. But they will have to update it. They will have to input sold auctions. That's the key here. They can go to Heritage, Stacks, they can go to Great Collections and eBay, and they can put their averages in from that. Because the baseline values already, PCGS, NGC, Numis Media, and CPF or CPG, those are already there. That's just what we started out with. Now we want to go in and fix those values, anything that's off, because we know some of it's off. That way, it's mainly for what's been selling lately, updated from that. That's the whole plan. So what you look at right now is an average of established values by the major price guides that everyone uses, or at least a lot of dealers use and collectors use. Then we have a person come along that volunteers. They're going to go to sold auctions and they're going to check the values and make sure that they're within the parameters they should be for what is actually being sold for right
Yeah. Well, I'm really personally excited about the price guide section. I want to get a little bit into the apprehensions that people have about artificial intelligence, and some of it's overblown. I know there's definitely a lot of chatter from myself included about AI and its uses. And currently, this is just kind of the beginning of it, right? So, who knows where it'll go from here? But um, you know, this is a funny question to me. But are we putting ourselves out of business, Daniel?
now. No, not at all. Actually, I think that it would help out a whole lot. Do you mean as far as like grading's concerned? As far as
Well, I mean, it's like anything else today. When people pick up their phone and like it's supposed to have all the answers for them, which I've railed against how it works currently because Google is not a numismatist. Two different words, two different meanings, right? So, I think more or less, I'm a little bit tongue in cheek about the question about it putting us out of business, but is there any goal here in the marketplace? In other words, um, is this to try to disrupt? Are we trying to Uber the grading companies? You know what's the end game here? I guess I'd say.
well, I mean, from my point of view, you'd love to be able to put in place the ultimate grading service, but that is not the aspiration. The aspiration is to get this going and let it take on a life of its own and see where it goes, because you got to be realistic in it. And like Mike says, you kind of shoot low, and then when you release it or it comes out and it's better than what people expect, or maybe it's a little bit more than what people expect. That we talked about that. It's going to have to be a physical coin graded before you ever even think about being a grading company. This is going to be a tool just to help, and that's what it amounts to. And to me, I think that would help us a whole lot if we have someone who's a little more knowledgeable walking in our front door to my shop, because I got so many people that walk in and they don't know what they have, and get a little frustrated with you because they're like, "Man, I checked on Etsy and I saw the ad, and I just had someone do it today. I mean, I have a 1977 quarter and I looked it up online and it's worth $10,000." And I said, "It's worth a quarter." And they just hang up on me. They don't believe me. You know.
This is a different discussion entirely, but it kind of ties into what you're working on with the technology stuff. This is not to your platform in mintstate.com, but this is to the one of the things that's to me a bigger problem, which is even if we have this as a community, this gets created and it helps within the community, outside of the community, that's where all the errors take. It's like the farther away you get from the core of coin collecting, the worse and worse the information gets. So it's like unless you're already in the circle, you're relying on Google or whatever other search engine, and you find some late night TV guy hawking something.
Right.
And those guys are all invading YouTube now too, so they're all selling their overpriced junk there. And so, how do we combat that technology? How do we combat Google?
See, that's the whole thing. And to me, I think having a site like Midstate, and it gets on all the channels and is something that everybody recommends because everybody contributed to it and everybody feels like they got a stake in it, a part in it, and it's going to help the community. I think that would go a long ways, because as well as I do, it's going to reach a few 100,000 people, which is basically the core of YouTube. And maybe those people will also introduce it to the Facebook groups and to wherever they go on social media. And maybe that will be the go-to place instead of Google for your coin value searches. I know it sounds kind of crazy because you've got PCGS, you got NGC, but I'm thinking of Mint State, like I said, it's more like by the people, for the people kind of thing, where a kind of a grassroots, not a big bunch of conglomeration of scary, grouchy dealers that everybody thinks that all us dealers are, which I know we're not, but there are some that are. We know
Yeah.
that. but we're kind of, I mean, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 50 years old. And I consider myself kind of a young dealer because a lot of dealers I go to the shows, and there are some my age, there's some a little bit younger than me. But, a lot of people think of us as older fogies and, that kind of thing. But I think that in taking out, making this a personal thing will help out a whole lot. And I think a lot of that has to do with just being, um, I don't know how to say it, but just being human, more like a human endeavor for all collectors together. Because when you think about all dealers doing something together, then that's what happens when you have PCGS and DC. It's kind of untouchable or unreachable, you know, that kind of thing. I guess it's almost like, I guess I should say, whenever we started to be online in '95, I think I forget which was the first forum, but you had Collectors Universe obviously started a forum. People get on there and kind of can talk to some of the owners of PCGS, the people who were, and it kind of made it more personal, so that it became really popular. Yeah. I think that's what we're looking at here for that. These coin values sample everybody. We're looking at the entire numismatic spectrum of values, and we don't have any particular dealer that tells us what the values are. It's the collectors who do this.
Yeah. I'm going to tie some of those thoughts together, and the human aspect of coin collecting is one of my favorite aspects of it. And the community on YouTube, I've said 1,000 times, just this has been a great place for me to be. And one of the things that I've had apprehension about when it came to artificial intelligence and third-party grading is, to me, third-party grading already introduces a level of um, I don't know how you put it, like upper echelon, and a level of also the people in the White Castle, White Palace, and then there's the rest of us. And so I was concerned really about artificial intelligence still moving in that direction to where it is not used for humans. I don't like the commoditization of coin collecting. There's a guy who commented the other day on one of the videos that, at the end of the day, the collectors, you and I, are all the curators for all these things. And so I still have kind of a concern that AI is going to continue to lead us down that path, and then artificial intelligence plus PCGS plus NGC is going to create even more of a, them, and you take like one big auction house and pretty soon it's the Amazon of coin collecting. Like, I don't want coin collecting to become like Amazon, and I want it to still be personal. People can go to coin shops, go to coin shows, be together, because that community aspect is really important to me.
Yeah, it is to me too. I don't think. Okay, I guess we could look at this. We have a history here. Whenever in '95, pretty much a lot of these websites came out. You had eBay, you had Yahoo auctions, you had Overstock auctions, you had iOffer, and of course the forums that allow you to sell on the forums. And it, we went through good times and bad times, but it doesn't seem like that it hurt the hobby. It actually seemed like it brought the hobby more like a community. Everybody around the world that's kind of connected, whereas before that it wasn't like that. When I was growing up, I mean, I'd go to a coin shop, love seeing the coin dealer. One of my favorites was in Westerfield. His name was Alan Carnes, and it was a big deal to me to actually go and see other collectors or other dealers. With my dad, it was a big deal to me. I had that same feeling when I get online, like knowing that I was going to do this video with you and you're another coin dealer. It's great for me. It shows a sense of community. So I don't think we're going to see that disappear. I don't think AI is going to cause that to disappear. Matter of fact, I think it will breed confidence in the hobby a little bit better once it gets going. Once it's actually looking at a coin and saying, look, this is what that coin looks like. And it's like that every single time. I did a video this morning, and I did it on the missing designer initials on Kennedy half dollars, and showing examples that shouldn't be missing FG based off of what PCGS and other experts say a missing designer initial should be. And I explained why they're missing and what happens. And that if you did have artificial intelligence looking at these coins, none of them would pass if they could see a little bump or anything on those coins. So you'd be confident knowing that what you're buying is actually a no designer initial or an MS63. And it's not going to be 100%. And like I said, we're kind of looking too far ahead here because it's going to be a tool to help first. It has to learn, it has to be programmed, and that's going to take a lot of, like I said, funding. That's the bottom line when it comes to this kind of stuff. It's going to take time, and we have no designs to kick the grading companies out. It's not like that. That's not what our aspirations are. We look at it as, I think, it could be more like maybe a better version of CAC, if anything, and go that route and try to work towards, because we would rather, as a company, if things really get going, to work with all the grading companies together, maybe come together and form some type of standard. That would be really good to be like a tool to use for that purpose. So it's not like we're trying to overtake anything. That's not the whole goal. I know that some companies it's difficult to convince owners to go along with it and stakeholders and things like that. But hopefully we stay independent as much as possible. You don't want to answer to, and that's one of the other things. And it'd be nice to be nonprofit, but that's almost impossible. Independent, you want to be that, but you already have ICG, you know. So there's so many dynamics involved in it that I think that it would actually give confidence to the hobby, in my opinion. That's what I think it would do.
Yeah. Well, I think that I'm with you on just moving forward here, and it's kind of one step at a time, because you're right. You said getting ahead of ourselves, because I mean, really, if you think about it, I was going to ask you how it feels to be on the cutting edge of a revolution. And but what's interesting though is really it's really his baby steps right now, and I can see that, and I can kind of see where you're headed with a lot of it, what you guys are doing over there, and I think a lot of it is definitely going to be good for the hobby. Um, as far as funding goes, I mean, the crowdsourcing for information, I think is a great idea. Now, have you considered doing like a GoFundMe or anything like that specifically for
You
the
know,
projects?
we've
Or
talked about it. We're trying to increase, obviously, the channel, the YouTube channel, so that it starts earning, and we're working towards that. And then also AdSense approved ads for the mintstate.com site. And then we thought they're working on an app. I told them they need to have an app on the Google and iTunes store, because people just seem to gravitate towards that stuff. They like to have something on their phone. They can just press a button. So they're working on that. And I told him, I said, revenue will come with that. And there's a certain amount that he needs to be at. And I told him, I said, you can get there. I said, I know you can, because I'm past that with what I do with my website. And because I already have, had a website up, CoinHELPu, since 2007. I don't get to work on it like I used to, because of my coin shop now is so busy. We're all doing, how busy it is at the coin shop right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
And which is a great thing.
You're out of bed. What are you talking about? But that's another conversation. We'll have that one later.
You're right about that. I'll tell you what, me and Dad talk about that. Dad's 86, okay, and he's been doing this since 54, part-time, best pockets what he's been all of his life. He's always had a job. I took it completely another step further, and he tells me, he says, I just can't believe what you've done. He said, this is crazy. He said, you're something else, Daniel. It makes me feel proud, because, and I get to be with my dad in the coin shop, and that was my dream. So, dreams do come true. If you work hard at it, you know that. And he says, man, last night I was up all night thinking about how I could price this stuff. So yeah.
Oh, well, that's
he's
fun. That's fun. Well, when it comes to uh, I the technology, you got two guys working on it, and you got you, and so we're talking about crowdsourcing. Are now I know people who design stuff get very picky, and you don't want too many cooks in the kitchen. Do they also want some kind of help on the tech side? I mean, volunteers. What are they looking at on that?
um, Mike
Engineers and whatever.
Mike has his own company, and obviously mintstate.com is its own company.
Right.
And there's some ownership there for me, but most of the ownership is Mike's. And I'm not trying to get into the personal stuff here, because it's not really anything. It's a company, and it's not like it's private or anything. It's an S corp, which was my recommendation. He already knows people that he needs to hire them to work on this. As far as I know, that's what he would do. I can't really speak 100% on that. So I wouldn't really know for sure. That's really not my part of this. I guess my part of it is, and I would we really haven't talked a lot about the AI, and there's a lot of questions I do, or a lot of answers that I like to have, or I should say answers that I've come up with watching your video. I tried to watch your 35-minute live video,
Okay.
but I kept getting distracted and had to do things.
The
So I
comments,
heard some of the questions.
the comments are the most important factor. I mean, the people, what they put in. So go ahead. I had all kinds of. You have answers ready for some of the people who have apprehensions about AI and how it work. Roll with it, whatever you got.
Okay, well, let's put it this way. In any software, it works with algorithms, okay? I mean, and you have to design the algorithms to do certain things, okay? And they have certain tasks. And I don't know if you've ever been working, I know a little bit about PHP and HTML and things like that, but it's very rudimentary. I mean, I did some Code Academy classes and things like that just to kind of learn some stuff. But this AI is a little more advanced than that. It works off of different software. But you still have to program it to where it does tasks, and I can't get into all that because I don't know. I'm not a developer, but I can say that a lot of the input that I gave him on coins, he used as the program to help, fashion the learning process. Because images alone, it can look at the images and has parameters, develop parameters. Sometimes if you introduce too many, let's say -63s, it can start having more errors. That's a possibility. So you have to put, what he does, how he fixes that. He knows how to do that. So that's one thing that it can happen. And I know a lot of people have brought that up. They say, well, even artificial intelligence can start throwing so many errors after a while that it's not such a great system. And that's true. And he's aware of that. Mike's very good at this. Actually, I'm very impressed with Mike on this. And then I think maybe you should just ask me questions because I haven't watched that in a couple of days. I did write down some notes on some things, but a lot of people, I think, were asking. Let me try to find them here, since you can edit this, I can look at it. Okay.
Saying that I can edit something is actually pretty funny. So I'm going to just tell everybody that while Daniel's finding his material. That
No, don't. You
we,
can't do that.
we,
I'll
we
edit
all,
it.
we all know that I have an editor, like I have an engineer of my own, and that's the only reason why I can show off how much I do. If iPhone and YouTube weren't just like click and play, well, I never would have been able to start, but fortunately I got a good crew here. He tends to leave in some of my bloopers and errors, which is fine because we're human, right? So
okay, I use VideoPad and I can edit all that out. I can edit out my ums and my butts and my nose picks or whatever.
it would take him too much time to edit out my ums, so I think he leaves them in. He's
okay. Well, as far as I remember something in the videos, and we kind of touched on this, take out the inconsistency, period.
Yeah.
And the thing of it is that let's go with the bare bones. I actually was an art major in college, and I know this sounds crazy. I've done a lot of things in life, I guess, and I was going to teach art because of history. It's the closest thing to numismatics is history. I mean, you can't really.
History.
So I thought, I could be a teacher, and me and Dad can do the coin thing in the evenings and on the weekends, and that was kind of the goal. It didn't work out. I ended up dropping out of college after 4 years, but I have several. I was really good at art. I mean, my teacher said I was really good at art because I was really creative. My mind could look at things differently. So approaching computers and software and the idea that you could teach a computer is very compelling to me because the idea of teaching anybody anything is interesting to me. So let's start off with a blank slate. Before you ever graded your first coin, you had no idea how to grade it. Same with me. The only difference between me learning it is I have emotions. I have biases. I have things that I look at, preconceived notions, what people have told me in my past. A program is not going to have any of them. Okay. And if you develop the algorithms appropriately with enough samples, you're basically looking at creating what I call a glorified photo grade. Right. We all know that even the graders at PCGS at one time had samples. I mean, I think I saw some of them for sale, where they actually used graded coins as examples to help them grade coins. So what we're looking at is that I might forget some things that I learned while I was grading. My eyes might get tired while I'm sitting there looking at coins all day long. I look at coins all day long. Andy, who I hired, I'm letting him do the website now, and letting him learn everything about the coin shop. And he has to grade coins, use the gray sheet, and put the coins up and put a value in. And he's like, man, I can imagine doing this all day long and then getting a commission for so many that I grade. And day after day after day, he says, you would have to have a bad day. And even if they say they committee grade, you know as well as I do, man, they got thousands of coins going through there. It's hard to believe that 4 people, 3 people even, look at every single coin. I know they say they do it. I find it hard to believe that they actually adhere to that every single coin. But let's just, for the sake of argument, people get fatigued. A program that is looking at coins is not going to get fatigued. It's going to give the same result every single time if it's developed the baseline that it needs. It's been educated appropriately. And you know as well as I do, not every grader is equal. Not every grader can grade every coin equally. And even PCGS says that they use graders who are better at their strengths, whether it might be an Ike dollar or a Morgan dollar, and they can't grade a cent worth of a cent.
Yep.
So if you take a program, it's not going to be like that. It'll be able to grade all denominations. It'll be able to grade all grades, and it will be a little more consistent because it won't be a 64 one day and a 63 the next. Now, I'm not saying that it won't take a 64 because, when you're looking at a 64 plus and you've got a 65 minus, there's going to be a gray area there. But I think with parameters appropriately looking at enough coins over time that it will be able to differentiate and say, look, this is it. It has to be the 64 plus. It can't be any better. And like I said, you're probably going to, in the future, let's say this is going, let's say we're grading coins, actual physical coins. We got the laser, we got, the perfect environment for it, the lighting and everything that we need. There's always going to be someone say that really doesn't look the grade, but I hope that when you look at 1,000 graded coins, you're not going to pick out 200 that don't look the grade. You're going to pick out maybe 10. That's what I'm talking about. It's that kind of thing, the consistency. And a lot of people think, well, there's no way in the world you can do eye appeal. Well, I can tell you this. How did you learn eye appeal? How did you learn? You learned because, one, there are certain things you already kind of innately like when you were born. They say that even infants can recognize some colors or some things that they like. So you already have a little bit of that already hardwired. But as you're growing up, certain things trigger that you think pleasing. Well, I love bright white coins that have a lot of contrast and a little frosty luster. That's why I love Morgan dollars. And I love coins that have a lot of neon, beautiful colors. Now, if we put in introduce coins to this system or to the software, and those parameters of this is pleasing. This color spectrum here is pleasing to the human eye. I'm sure there's a lot of, it's going to be more complicated than this, but it could learn because we're telling it, okay? Just like you tell anything else, that it is pleasing. That's eye appealing. But eye appeal is not really what is the grading factor. When you look at the definition of eye appeal, it's not about how nice it looks. We know, as well as I do, I've seen plenty of bulk submissions where some pretty ugly coins get the same grade. So that's not what people are thinking. It's not going to know how pretty a coin is. It's not that. That's not what the grading is anyways. Because there's ugly coins that grade, good grades, as well as I do. So I think people have that misconception. But I think that it, just like it can learn anything else, well, as well as I do, your iPhone recognizes your face. When I open up my phone, I don't have to put a code in as long as I have a mask on because it recognizes my face. Okay, it doesn't tell me I'm pretty, but it could probably be programmed to say you got some pleasing features based off of, as well as I do.
Go ahead and ask Siri how good you're looking. I have a feeling she's going to give you a nice compliment. I'm just telling
you. That's probably already there. I haven't even tapped into that feature, but that they've created new people just by using pictures from everybody, creating the people that don't exist. And I noticed, I saw that in a science article because I am such a person that I'll read science. I love science fiction. I love art. I love history. You name it. I can't get enough of all of it. I'm a sponge of, not that I'm saying I wish I had a what they call a photographic memory, but I don't, unfortunately.
Yeah, that'd be fun because then your grading would be perfect.
No, you would think. At least you would be able to spell out everything really fast.
There's, I think, just a certain amount of the apprehension that people have, I think, is the same apprehension that they have when it comes to, even though we know that in baseball, a computer could easily tell us the actual strike zone. and could actually tell us if the ball beats the runner, there's still just a huge part of people are like, yeah, but it's not for me, man. I just don't like the concept. Like, call it some type of strange phobia that we have, but that's where I kind of tend to fall in the camp of, even though we have it now, a lot more of what we talked about both with me and you today, but also a lot of the comments on the different AI videos that you've done and I've done, has really helped me come around to the idea of AI can be a tool, it can be an aid, and like you said, I think the best example you gave is probably, it's really just like having a coin grading book at your side all the time, and something that is more in depth with more, you know, uh, more options to it maybe than the book would have.
Yeah,
Uh,
because we look at a book, we see one example of the grade. This is going to see multiple. It's
right.
going to be like having 10 different or 100 different, 1,000 different photo grading images that's going to look at. Basically, I say look, but it's I use non-developer terms because I'm not the developer, and that's why it'd be really good. Me and Mike's going to do a video in the future soon. I told him it'd be good to do one maybe even next week. We can swing it in with the Christmas holidays coming. That we could do a little bit of more talk about the developer side of it. Because he can explain it a little bit better than I can, and we talk about it. But
Well, we've got a lot of coin collectors out there that are absolutely engineers, and they have the engineer mindset. And for some of them, it's hard to get into the coin collecting grading aspect of coin collecting because, you talked about art, and one of the things that is to me is grading is an art form, and so there's levels that I can see still that AI is not necessarily going to take over, but it's not necessarily designed to take over. But what I'm getting at is a video with you and Mike about some of the very technical aspects, or even a live stream. I'd recommend, if you guys are up to that challenge. It's difficult because there's always so many moving targets, but
yeah,
the point is to get some of those other engineers and people to ask the technical questions. Those guys would go bonkers for that. And even guys that aren't coin collectors who just like kind of new technology, that's the type of thing that they'd really have interest in watching, I think.
yeah, and I'm not sure how much there's the willingness. I mean, as far as Mike's concerned, I don't know what details he could actually give because my idea of the software and what it does is a little abstract. And I think that's why me and Mike work so well together because he's the math guy, he's the technical guy, whereas I'm the guy that's kind of on the abstract side. I'm the guy that says, well, what if it can do this? Could we have it look at these coins and say this is a 63, this is and that kind of thing. So I'm looking at it from that kind of point of view to add to the human aspect of the AI. In other words,
Right.
because I mean, I look at, and like I said, I want to try to touch on a lot of that because a lot of people think, well, how can a computer do this or do that? Because when you think about retina scans, when you think about, the biometrics, in other words, because I do have my certifications in Security Plus, CompTIA, and all that. I keep that up to date, and I love that the idea of being able to identify someone's face and all the little details of it, and they know exactly it's the same thing could happen to a coin. I mean, look at a coin. You'd actually be able to identify each coin uniquely, and you would know too if that coin was cracked out and resubmitted. You'd be able to identify the fact that coin was already graded by Mint State or whatever the companies would be called in the future if it ever happens that way. And I've noticed that's another thing people were saying would just stop the crackouts. And they wouldn't want to do that because then they lose money on crackouts and resubmissions. And they have a valid argument. And I'm not saying that's crooked by the grading companies because they know they're going to have a certain amount of consistency no matter what they do. And that some people are going to try to get a better grade and they got that chance. But how many more graded coins are there to be graded in the future? Because there's only so many minted and so many that are even worthy of grading. The ones that are actually worthy, how many more are out there? I mean, there might be some more hoards found, but you know as well as I do, there's less now than there was in 1986.
Yeah.
There's less hoards out there. There's less coins that are worthy of putting in a holder because of their value, potential value and grade. So what is it going to be 20 years down the road? How
I
many is going to be left?
my concern about AI has a lot more to do with my concern about grading, which is that grading, the third-party grading services has done to the collector market, what and the coin collector, what calculators have done for our ability to do math. So that's still my number one concern, but that's not necessarily AI's fault. That's more of the third-party grading service. So I'm really interested in us being able to, as a community, teach people how to grade. And so what I don't want to have happen is have AI continue to take that place of the individual learning how to grade. So I'm super in favor of having things made educational. To me, this is a great use of the technology. If it becomes educational, if it instead becomes, hey, once again, turns into a commodity because I can take my phone and scan it, I can use my 3D printer to encase it, and I'm good to go. Like it, there's a whole. Some of it's hard for me to even imagine because I'm not a comic book writer. I don't know how the future's going to look, but my apprehension is just I don't want it to become something that replaces people's ability to grade coins.
My thing is people already don't grade coins very well. They don't know what resource to go to grade their coins. You can tell them there's photo grades all you want, and they don't know. That they just don't know. And I think having this right here is in everybody's hand, and it will be in the future to be able to find out. I think that photo grades will help. This is kind of a glorified photo grade. It's going to help people grade. It's not going to not teach them how to grade. It's not going to prevent people from learning how to grade. Matter of fact, graded coins is one of the best tools, in my opinion, that you can use to actually learn how to grade coins. And bring up an interesting thought that you could use a 3D printer to print out your own slab and grade your own coins. If it has a certification number and you can
I,
verify it and it's not fake, I don't know about that. That's a little, you
I'll tell
know.
you what. Well, this is something that all now this is open source and everyone's going to find out all the secrets that I have. Um, I I've talked about it actually before in other videos in the past, but the way I really see AI with coins and grading going is, and I think this is a good place for it to go. When it comes to modern coins, MS 69, 70, proof 69, proof 70, that thing, that to me is a very technical, brand new coin. You put it on a laser flatbed. It gives you its own perfect chemical readout. Perfect, everything's perfect, and it tells you whether something is. That's how I see it working. And actually, I could see a company having these slabbing kiosks where you can drop your coin in the top. A little conveyor belt goes in, and you put your card in. It goes ahead and slabs it for you, comes out the other side, and they'd have the kiosk set up at coin shops and at other things. Like I could see that happening in a real way. I think that could be one of the ways this goes. Um, so I don't know. You're
I
the
got,
visionary.
I, I think, in my opinion, though, I think less people need to be grading on their own, because I think you get back to what it used to be like before we had grading companies. And I know that grading companies are not perfect, and I know that we all have our little, gripes about it. But in reality, it's better than what it was. And it created the rare coin markets, what it did. I mean, we always had rare coins, but when you start putting 67 and 68 on coins, it creates a rarity level that was never there before. So people going around grading their own coins and selling them on eBay, that's the problem we have right now with the whole thing is people overgrading their coins because they don't care what the grading companies say. It's my opinion. They'll put a clean coin up that's obviously clean, or to them, they're not going to tell you it's clean. You need to figure it out. I got a good image. You judge on your own. I don't know how to grade. Basically, I'm not responsible. Okay, I gave you a good image, and that's the kind of thing we have right now. So, I'm not saying artificial intelligence will get rid of it, but we've already got a problem with people trying to grade their own coins, and they're not doing it very well. So, to me, I think that it could improve things. Like I said, more consistency. It will actually bring more confidence into the market because you've got a way that you can actually verify what your coin possibly is.
Yeah.
As far as what you said, the difference between 69 and 70 would definitely be something that would be beneficial. And I'll tell you this, anything before AU 58 is also going to be fairly easy, it seems. to be more accurate with this system. The only problem, like he told you, AU 58 to 60 is difficult, and some of the mint state grades, the differences between 62 and 63. That's where it really gets complicated. That's where you need most of the samples at.
Yeah. Well, the good news is here that I think for everyone who's been wondering about some of this stuff, and I know you've put videos out, and I know a lot of the people watching this have already been over to mintstate.com and have subscribed to the YouTube channel there. But really, the frank conversation, the ability to say, "Hey, this is where we're at," and there is really just the tip of the iceberg right now. And as I'm watching it, I'm like, it is exciting to see. It is a revolution, and it's intriguing to me to see where it goes next. And I could talk to you for an hour about this, but I think we're going to go ahead and say good night. I have no doubt that your wife's texting you right now saying where you're at. I have dinner ready. But
It was my daughter. She wants printer paper.
this is the reality of life, people. This is the reality of life. Well,
This is real. I got one thing though that I do want to cover really fast.
yeah, lay it on me.
Someone mentioned that the system could be compromised, and it could also actually be used to do the same thing that's going on right now, or at least they think that's going on right now. Like I said, I don't think there's any grand conspiracy to overgrade someone's coin or undergrade a particular person's coin. I'm not saying that Joe Smo dealer and his best buddies, and he sends you coins, and you look at them. It's hard not to be favorable, but I'm not saying that happens. Okay, but you hear that a lot, the good boy system. But as far as this is concerned, I mean, it's going to be a program. It's already going to be difficult enough to get it to do what we need it to do, or at least Mike, to actually mess with it to where it throws things off. I mean, that'd be defeat the whole purpose of what we want to do, is to make more consistency in the hobby. So that would be kind of crazy. You would know it was a hack system if we graded coins, let's say, for you, and let's say this happened. I'm not saying I'm getting ahead of myself a bit, but I just want to say this because if you already had some coins graded by, let's say, a company that does the AI, let's go general here, you could know that it was hacked or it's not grading right because it starts grading things wrong because you put the coin in there and all of a sudden now it's not the grade you got the first time around. And that would be one way. And another thing is that it's going to be connected to the internet where you're going to have anybody going in there and hacking into it and changing it. I mean, you're obviously going to have risk with anything. Anything computers is going to have a risk. There's just no way around it. You've learned that lately with all that's happened, with all the software. Think as secure as can be, and you find out it's been hacked for months.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. I hadn't read comments quite to that effect, but clearly that one stuck in your craw a little bit, and I can understand why. It gets back to what you're saying about consistency. The number one thing that I got positive responses from people was, I think AI can be used to help with consistency. And I think that's true because of the fact that in our current status, third-party grading services, a grader looks at so many coins that there's no doubt that they have eye fatigue. I have it happen at work just when I'm going through an album or two of Morgan's, and I go back over it later and I look at what I wrote down. I'm like, did I have the sun in my eyes?
Trust me, I've done the same thing, and I'll be at a coin show looking at it, get back here at the shop with my wonderful lighting, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't I just,
Yeah, I've pulled coins out of my tray that at work, and I look at how I have a price, and I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at my customer, and I'm like, let's knock about $40 off of this.
I've done the same.
I must have not been,
Yeah. Okay, so let's just do this in closing. This is what I want to say. What we're doing is the most realistic way of doing it. We're looking for consistency only. A tool to help people with their coins as far as what the grade could be, like the glorified photo grade. And maybe in the future, if it progresses, we've got PCGS, NGC, Annex, you've got CAC, which are all basically opinions on opinions, which is fine, and some of it's factual, obviously, but maybe this will become a CAC type deal where you can send a coin, looks at it and says, yes, it definitely looks their grade, that kind of thing maybe. And then maybe eventually it'll be able to grade points, but we're talking down the road, you just never know. It may not work out that way. You don't know, because 10 years down the road, maybe this kind of technology will even be more developed. There'll be more more to it, you know. But just
Okay.
realistic is what we're looking at here. Realistic and being consistent and as a tool.
Yeah.
I think that's the key points here, you know.
Well, this is been a good conversation and something that I think the coin community needs to have and needs to hear. And we'll have more conversations about other topics, and I'm
Absolutely.
looking forward to it. So
Same here, man. I appreciate it.
thank you so much for joining us today, Daniel. I
Hey,
really appreciate it. And go get some paper for your daughter.
hey, I appreciate it. Thanks, Ben. I'll talk to you later.
Well, leave your comments down below. Let me know what you thought about the conversation. Daniel and I are happy to try to respond to some stuff. And I will say this, that after the conversation, one of the things that excites me about what they're doing over there at mintstate.com is currently, it's kind of in a beginner stages, and it looks like a lot of you have the ability to influence the outcome of what this looks like. If this was just being developed by some mega corporation that sold for $700 million, it might be harder to know exactly how it turned out. But leave your comments down below and let me know what you think. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Ben the Coin Geek. You can subscribe by clicking on the owl button and watch more videos on the right side of the screen. Thanks.